Good evening everyone and welcome back to Night Network, where tonight we'll be interviewing General John Monash, one of the many significant servers to World War I. We know of your many significant contributions to war. Can you please express your upbringing? I was born on the 27th of June 1865 in Melbourne, Victoria, and studied art and engineering at Melbourne University. I enlisted in the University Company for the 4th Battalion Victorian Rifles in 1884 and commissioned in the Garrison Artillery in 1885. I was responsible for an Eastern Railway in 1888, then married Hannah Moss in 1891 and established my engineering practice with J.T. Noble Anderson in 1894. After that, I graduated from university with DUCs and both my Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of... I heard you had previous military training. Can you please elaborate? I was in the University Company for Victorian Rifles, the Garrison Artillery, and Naval and Military Clubs prior to fighting in war, as I found military theory exciting. I continuously lectured on military topics in public and the militia, and after my studies of military history, I won the Army Gold Essay Competition in 1911. I had promotions in 1895, 1897, 1908 and 1913 for the positions Captain, Major, Lieutenant Colonel and Colonel, which led to my command of the 13th Infantry Brigade. Can you please describe why you enlisted? I enlisted on the 13th of September 1914, where I was appointed Deputy Chief Censor for 4 weeks of World War I. I made this decision because I was already part of the University Company for training, since I personally found the control of the hierarchical structure of men interesting, and had experience with commanding a brigade. After my enlistment, on the 22nd of December 1914, I embarked on a convoy flagship to Egypt. Could you explain what the conditions were truly like during World War I? We lived in dugouts on the sides of hills, and at specific times, the slight exposure above trenches could mean an instant shot with potential death. We received portions of bully beef and army biscuits as fresh meat and bread needed to be bought. Some bombardments were almost impossible to escape, passing swarms of dead soldiers throughout the fields. In 1915, I sent my wife a letter explaining what I thought to be my last communication with her. During these times of World War I, what outlook did you have on it? I believe that warfare was revolved around problems from engineering, and that the energetic offensive policy, feeding the troops on victory, was the quickest solution to end a drought. My view on tactic values was, instead of relying on physical effort, dodging of gunshots, and the use of hostile bayonets, but to have maximum protection with the maximum selection of machinery. I will always believe that having any organization of a plan is better than being unplanned and vulnerable, and that cautious preparation creates success. I know that you are promoted quite a few times. Can you please explain your various roles? During my service, I held Lieutenant Colonel, Colonel, Temporary Brigadier General, Major General, Temporary Lieutenant General, Lieutenant General, and General at separate times. My command of the 4th Infantry Brigade in 1914 gave my organisation over Quinn's Post and Pope's Hill, where my actions caused the Turks to counter-attack. In 1916, I received command of the 3rd Division, but endured with the 4th Brigade due to the 3rd Division's training in the United Kingdom. So, what units did this mean you served in? I worked in the Australian Imperial Force, where I commanded the 4th Australian Infantry Brigade. I worked with the 13th, 14th, 15th and 16th Battalions, which were raised in September 1914. These battalions varied in recruits, with the 15th Australian Infantry Battalion including mainly Queensland volunteers, with some from Tasmania, whereas the 16th Australian Infantry Battalion consisted of recruits mostly from Western Australia, with few from South Australia. What do you believe to be some of your most significant moments during these roles? My book, The Australian Victories, based around my experiences of battles in World War I, I'm proud of. I repatriated 160,000 Australian soldiers within the duration of nearly 8 months, and I convinced the government to make change in the original policy of slow repatriation. My tactic of the bombardment of smoke and gas shells prior to our attack towards the Germans was also quite effective. When we commenced our real attack, we only released smoke shells to distract them with the application of their gas masks, as they associated this smoke with gas. You received 10 of both awards and recommendations. Can you please describe to us your Distinguished Service Medal and why you were knighted? I was awarded the Distinguished Service Medal in July 1919 for my service for the United States Company. The award was established on the 14th of October in 1914 to recognise bravery. At the Australian Corps headquarters, I was knighted by King George V with the Commander of Bath for my successful strategy for the Battle of the Amiens on August 8th. In London 1919, I was knighted the Grand Cross of St. Michael and St. George for my continuous growth of efforts to war. Now that you're home and war has thankfully completed, what have you been doing? I returned to Australia on the 15th of November 1919, where in February 1920 my wife sadly passed of illness. In late June 1920, I became the manager of the State Electricity Commission of Victoria and an advocate and spokesman for returned soldiers. In 1923, I commanded the Special Constabulary Force and was Vice-Chancellor of the university. After my work from 1925 and 1927, I became Chief Organiser of Melbourne's Anzac Day. My high blood pressure then began creating difficulties for my work, and last year, 1929, I was promoted to Full General after my wartime service recognition. Well, I'm afraid that's all we have time for tonight. I'd not only like to thank you for sharing your story, but also to tell you how appreciative we all are for your amazing service at World War I. That concludes our episode of Night Network. Thank you and good night.